Bad timeline. What's the good timeline? Give me a point of reference here.
I don't smoke cigarettes in the good timeline.
I wear a lot more leather in the bad timeline, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is dumb.
I'm
We're
more
live
of
on the
a-
internet now.
I'm
The
more
internet
of-
can see
I'm
us.
more of a soft daddy on the good timeline.
A what daddy?
Soft?
Oh, I thought you said snoff daddy, and I was really interested to hear whatever fetish that had to do with.
Oh,
Snoffing?
You have to make. Yeah, you have to make that one up on your own, my boy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Welcome. Life
Clearly.
is often, much like this podcast, life is often strange. We are here today to record our UT versus UGA Tennessee preview rather. Jesus, I hope that's not a review. I really missed some things. I might have called it a review on the tweet I just put out. But whatever, we'll find.
We're reviewing something. We're reviewing these stats
Yeah.
in order to
We're
provide
reviewing these stats.
an objective
These hot
preview.
stats.
Have
All
you
right.
seen these numbers? Let's review these numbers.
We're going to review them. All right.
All right.
I have two questions. One, are you recording on Audacity?
I am not recording. We're doing
Please
great.
do.
We're off to a really great start, like a super, super great start. Let me move this
we're
over here.
Very well.
This is that pre-show banter that you want. This is it.
Yeah. That's the.
I'm speaking directly to
old-
somebody I know who is watching this right now, who I discussed pre-show banter to as a dumb part
The
of
old-
this show.
The old back and forth. And when the reason that pre-show banter is so important to this experience is that when we do finally start our show, we are very, very locked in. And
You got to get
It's-
all the
know.
sillies out now.
yeah. I really would rather have my. But I think that's gonna mess up my lighting. Oh, that's not so bad.
Find your light, Nathan. Find your light.
Well, I spent the first 15 minutes of the last recording looking like I was a damn White Walker, and I have this rosy skin tone, this golden rosy skin tone, and I can't have,
Don't wash it
can't have
out.
a
Yeah,
blue light on it.
the
Yeah,
people
I
should
don't
see.
wanna- I don't want to get washed out.
They deserve it.
This ruddy Scotch Irish skin tone, designed for the moors, where it's hot
Also-
in the day and cold at night.
We're
was
getting
so
away
weird 'cause
from
you
the
were-
show being advertised by Cheerwine. It's now advertised by Topo Chico, the alternative,
Oh, dude, Topo Chico is like my fave.
the Mexican
I'm
soda
currently having an
alternative.
Aha.
Aha! With
Not good.
caffeine. That turns. I'm really very distrustful of the caffeinated water. I don't like it.
All right, I'll do the intro.
All right, let's sync it up.
Let's sync it up.
3, 2, 1. Let's talk about football.
All
We're in,
right.
locked in.
Locked in, ready to go. I'm gonna hit you right off the dome.
Hit my dumb.
Some football business. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Get this nice rumbly brasso going here. All
That much deeper voice.
right. Yes, hello. All right. Hello and welcome to Chapel Bell Curve, a stats-focused podcast about UGA football. I'm Nathan,
And I'm Justin.
and Justin, we're here today to preview the upcoming tilt between your beloved University of Georgia Bulldogs, not just yours, Justin, but many people's, I've been told,
My Bulldogs?
and
They're mine.
your Bulldog. Yes, yours.
Thank you.
And what I would hazard a guess as the least color coordinated football team in all of Division One, the University of Tennessee Volunteers. Now, I want to hit you hot off the dome, Justin, and I want to tell everyone Justin doesn't know this is not on the show notes. Justin, I would like you to pull up your Hangout window. I would like you
Okay.
to pull up your Hangout window, and I'm going to send you a link.
Alrighty.
You ready for me? Are you ready for me to send you a link?
I am
right.
almost there, yes. This is new. I don't know what's happening.
I'm going to read a byline. This is from Brett Molina at USA
Oh my
Today.
god. Oh no.
Do you want fries with that vodka? Arby's announced it will release a limited edition crinkle fry vodka and curly fry vodka. These fries flavored 80 proof bottles will be available to purchase November 18th. The fast food chain says both spirits are made from high quality potato vodka. The curly fry vodka is distilled with cayenne, paprika, onion, and garlic, while the crinkle fried vodka is made with kosher salt and sugar. Now,
Those botanicals.
Justin, I happen to know that one of our mutual friends is buying 2 bottles of this stuff. And I want you live on air to tell me what weird mixologist cocktail are we going to make with this Crinkle Fry vodka?
Is it? Hold on. So is it? It says it's distilled.
Yeah,
Is it? It's fries flavored. Yes, that is correct.
Yes.
What? This is a cursed item. This absolutely cursed. Why did you do this? Why is this the first thing that you're like? First off, you threw me off when you introduced the show and you said, "Hello, this is Chapel Bell Curve," because you've never done that before, and then you come at me with this white dog shit. I can't believe you. God.
Look, Peter is buying 2/5 of this, and asked me to ask you on air.
Okay.
He said, listen.
Okay.
He said, Nathan, they made this sin so that others may sin. This is like
others may sin as well.
Yeah, this is sin dilution, and we are going to make. All right. So we have several thoughts. You ready?
Yeah.
So first of all,
hold on. You're gonna give me the thoughts right now. Okay, go. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still reeling a little bit.
All right.
If enough of us sin, they can't get all of us. Go. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is the old goblin siege tactic strategy with God. It'll work. So, first of all, our thought is Jamaica shake, boozy Jamaica shake, right off the dome.
Okay. So that's like you put the fries right in the shake. Yeah.
Frosty. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So that one's easy. Now we're gonna get into the difficult ones. Okay.
Okay.
So our tall glass option we thought of would be, you put it in Coke, and you do like an RB Libre, but instead of lemon juice or lime juice, you do a pickled okra with some of the brine.
I will say I think this would make a really, really great Bloody Mary. It'd make a really great Bloody Mary.
One of the options is a Bloody Mary with extra horseradish, because you got to get the horsey sauce in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were thinking that we would make potato skins and then use them as the garnish. Like a potato skin sidecar, kind of just get the full experience.
So this is what's throwing me off. Let me just say, because this is what vodka's for. Vodka is for cocktails that you don't want to taste like booze. And if you taste your vodka, you have bad vodka, one, or you've put way too much in whatever you're making. That's kind of the whole thing. So that's why it's throwing me off. This has flavor, which is bad.
Here's what I'm thinking is, we are going to be working with the pepper and the garlic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So some thoughts I thought of are some sort of ancho liqueur would be a good counterpoint to that. So maybe some kind of chocolate, cinnamon, sort of like Mexican chocolate kind of deal.
You could do a really great, I think you could do a dirty martini, and you can make it even dirtier. You can make it with pickle juice instead of like olive juice, and then throw like a little bit, like get real weird, throw a little bit of beef broth, like a beef bouillon. We could rim it with beef bouillon.
Yes. So Peter said beef stock that then you put in the sugar chili powder like mix that they use on Mexican candies.
You want to get real weird? We could put this in vodka sodas, just vodka and soda, nothing else, just bubbly fry water.
I'm into that. Well, the other thing Peter was thinking about was like doing some kind of coupe drink, like some kind of like kind of gin fizz style thing with an egg white in it. You could also do a coupe. You could do a coupe drink where you like lit a stick of thyme on fire or rosemary and like got the smoke and then poured it all over the smoke so that it was kind of like smoking like the fries. Anyway, you need to think about this because this is happening. So this, as you know, as everyone knows from the last 10 minutes of our conversation, this is a podcast
about college football. Yeah, specifically
specifically the University of Georgia Bulldog football team. And everybody who knows us will tell you the watchword of this show is focus and integrity and just commitment to the bit. So that's what we're here to deliver to you. So let's talk about today's upcoming game, because I don't think that everyone has given themselves a slip disc with the whiplash that I'm serving today. And so I'm going to continue until everyone is dealing with some sort of neck injury with the tonal whiplash that I'm currently employing.
I'm very excited because Nathan usually makes the notes anyway for us, and then we kind of fill in between the two of us. But this episode, Nathan said, "Get ready," because I have been doing some work, and it's kind of funny to me whenever you do some work on the notes, like you put a ton of stuff in here, one, and two, it's usually on the games that matter not the least, but less than they need to, which
Well,
I enjoy.
It's never hard to be like, Nathan, vamp about Florida for 45 minutes. And I just like crack the knuckles. Podcasting is visual medium. I just crack the knuckles and just like go in, and I have a rage whiteout, and then I wake up and everyone's like, hey, great episode, real classic. And I'm like, yeah, sure, great. Like I'm a werewolf or something. But like for the games that are, to me, what makes a game interesting is my ability to predict it. Like I was pretty sure we were going to beat the crap out of Florida. So like, even though I hate Florida more than anything in the world, really, I just don't. Like, I think I know what was going to happen. And I think UGA is going to win this game, but I don't know what's going to happen. And so that is what made me do all this work. Also, my students are working on a multi-genre project right now, so I don't really have a lot to do at school.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so football it is. So,
yeah.
Do you want to talk about this game specifically? Well, actually, I lied. Do you want to talk a little bit about the news around the around the world?
Hit me.
Really, the only thing is that, we're this late in the season, 9th week. We start talking a little bit about, the College Football Playoff Committee is stouting, giving us all their unsolicited opinions about who they think is the best team in the nation, which Georgia's on top still. That's fine. But Cincinnati fans rejoice. Bearcat enjoyers of the world rejoice. They have moved from 6 to 5. Therefore, there was a clearer path to the college football playoffs for your Cincinnati Bearcats. Your Cincinnati been two wrongs, which... those members of the Discord and those that aren't, this might be an inroads for those of you that aren't. If you if you're like, do I want to join that Discord? I spent like half an hour yesterday just sharing Been Too Wrong videos and talking about how great that animal is. So you have that to look forward to, and that only costs you $1 a month. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah,
I make this content for free, basically.
Yeah, we want to support our viewers and patrons that are very interested and live football and stats, and we also want to support our viewers and patrons that are distracted by shiny things, as we are. And so we try to do both. Get you a podcast that can do both is what I say.
So very exciting news is all I'm saying. And why it's exciting is because now they have just two teams that could potentially lose in their championships to put them at number 4. That is, of course, if Cincinnati wins out still, they only need Ohio State or Oregon to lose their championships, which isn't that wild of an idea.
I mean, but also I think, they could I think they could get in if we beat Alabama bad enough.
That's true. Yeah.
Like,
I think,
if we
two
barely
loss
beat
Alabama does not
they'd
get
probably
in.
put Alabama in, but they so I think they could get in if we beat Alabama by like 20 points or something, which I'm not saying will happen. Then they need to be our biggest fan, right? Anyway, let's talk about this actual game.
Yeah, you want to talk to me about the dynasty and the history between these two teams, if we got anything?
Yes. Yeah, I do actually. So first of all, what's really weird is these two teams did not play between 1937 and 1969. So that's weird. They have played exactly 50 times. UGA is winning 25-20-23 with 2 ties. The largest margin of victory for UGA was in 1981 at 44-0. Largest margin of victory for University of Tennessee was in 1936 at 46-0. The longest winning streak in the series was from 36. So 1989 to 1999 was a 9-game winning streak for Tennessee. And the longest winning streak for Georgia was a 5-game winning streak from 1909 to 1924. These two are not traditional, and they're not traditional rivals, right? I mean, they are, but like they really only started playing every year in 1992 with the sort of reincorporation of the SEC and the establishment of the SEC championship game. Comparatively, Tennessee has a long and storied tradition, and because of that, they are ahead of Georgia in all-time wins at 11th to Georgia's 13th. They have 6 national championships to Georgia's 2. They have 16 conference championships to Georgia's 14. Interestingly enough, I think I saw on our Discord that if UGA wins out this year, they are going to get within spitting distance of Tennessee. Tennessee has 854 wins, and UGA has 848. So they could actually get one of those wins back in this next game. But also, given that Tennessee doesn't play in the SEC championship, and if Georgia goes to the college football championship, that's also another possibility extra game that they can take from them. So you could get 3 of those games back of the 6-game difference, which I think is interesting. Other than that, a weird fact: Tennessee has never had a Heisman winner.
Really? I'm
Nope,
surprised they didn't
0
have any in
Heisman
the
winners.
late '90s time of
Nope.
just Tennessee footballdom.
One of the things that's weird about Peyton Manning's career at Tennessee is that he was like really good but not great. And then Martin won the Heisman the next year, or didn't win the Heisman, won the Natty the next year after he left. Anyway, what were you going to say?
I wanted to ask you, speaking of storied traditions, there are a lot of things to know about the Tennessee Volunteers. There are a few of them, really. I will say that I'll bring up today. The mascot, of course, is the Volunteer. Do you know why they are the Tennessee Volunteers?
Yeah, because there was a big brigade of volunteer militia who went from Tennessee to Texas, I believe, for the Mexican-American War.
The War of 1812.
War of 1812. Okay, pardon me.
Yeah, they're the most volunteeringest folk around.
Yeah.
Just per capita.
Keep in mind,
most volunteers.
I did live in Knoxville for 2 years, so.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the next inroad for me to basically lie to you like a child. Much in the way that I did with Humphrey, Mizzou. I know.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna have to be on really, really strict watch at the Charleston Southern episode because I don't know anything about Charleston Southern.
I'm gonna sneak one in.
So you could probably convince me they were the wrong mascot. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna guess right now that they're probably the Bulldog because it seems to be a very popular mascot among smaller division whatever teams. Rocky Top, though, let me. I wanted to ask you, what are your feelings on Rocky Top first?
Oh boy.
And then I want to paint a picture for you after I kind of hear just a brief.
Southern, by the way, are the Buccaneers. So
Buccaneer Bulldogs.
Dashing mascot. Yeah. So, well, first of all, University of Tennessee's fight song is actually not Rocky Top. It's Down the Field, which is more of a traditional march. Their school song is Rocky Top, similar to Glory not being UGA's fight song. Hail is UGA's fight song. So technically, but what do I think about Rocky Top? I mean, I think fundamentally it's a good song that's been misapplied, mispurposed, taken from its root nature as a good song and turned into something like sort of a feeble, just Miskatonic style, unnatural shadow of what the song was originally. Like it has just like a touch of the Eldritch to it. Like it's somehow this really peppy song that's very catchy that's been played until, much like the works of Jordan Peele's horror canon, like the smiles become sinister is what I think about it.
I just wanted to, for a moment, like we have a lot of marching band folks that listen to this show. We're both marching band people. You're still involved with marching band in a very big way. Imagine for a moment you grew up in Tennessee and you went and you performed in the local high school marching band. And because you are a high school marching band member in the state of Tennessee, everybody in the state of Tennessee most likely has Rocky Top in their playlist somehow and plays it a variety of time, or not a variety of times, but just an undisclosed amount of times every game. What would your life be like? How would you feel about that? Rocky Top everywhere you go. Rocky Top, you turn left. Rocky Top, you turn right. You sleep to Rocky Top. You brush your teeth to Rocky Top. It's there when you wake up. It's there at the games.
Is this you? Did this happen to you?
No, I didn't. What? No.
I was like, I didn't think you grew up in Tennessee, but that's a
No.
terrifying idea.
I'm just imagining for a moment. I'm sure it's the case. I would love to know. I need to know a teen from Tennessee. Tennessee, please. I need to know your experience. What's going on? That was a terrible joke, but I just need to know if that's the case.
Well, East Tennessee and West Tennessee are very different places. Anybody from East Tennessee probably has a pretty intimate relationship with the University of Tennessee and with Knoxville because that's the sort of that's sort of the gravity of Eastern Tennessee sort of rotates around Tennessee, similar to how big swaths of South and Central Georgia are just like dyed-in-the-wool Georgia country, and then there are swaths that are dyed-in-the-wool Auburn country and West Georgia. East Tennessee is sort of like just dyed-in-the-wool University of Tennessee country, and it's one of those places where it's like you don't see a lot of dissenters among the ranks, honestly. Like if you go to a Knoxville high school, similar. Well, I've never, Athens high schools are not always like this, but if you go to a Knoxville high school, like at least when I was there, it's like 95% Tennessee gear. Like it is the sort of the entire Tennessee is the gravitational well around which all of Eastern Tennessee rotates in some ways, I think, especially in terms of sports.
It's terrible.
Yeah, look, Rocky Top as recorded by like Dolly Parton, very good. Rocky Top as like a fun Appalachian folk song, cool. But Rocky Top as sort of a grim caricature of a sound that gets played 100,000 times every Tennessee home game, I'm less cool with it.
That's fair. That's a fair and very just assessment of the situation. So, at the show, we like to start with big subjective narratives and kind of dial in. So the one that I'm seeing a lot of is everybody talking about just how great this Tennessee offense is. And I'd love to hear you break it down when we get to the stats portion of the show, because the headline I've seen in a few places and a quotes I've seen in a few places, including one David Pollock, have asked, what if there's a shootout? What if they just get into a horse race? Talking, in reference to, the most recent development of college football play style is score the most points. And I don't just mean that in an asinine way. I mean how many points do you think I can score? Similar to the question of how hard do you think I can throw this against the wall? So that's kind of how it feels in a lot of ways. And I'm very curious to know, what the stats tell us about that general perception of what this game could be, and if it will go that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to get into that. It's definitely something where Tennessee does have a good offense. That much I will say. I think that's pretty unequivocal.
Well, that's important to know. And the final piece, just kind of, breaking down a little bit more. I know that, injuries have been rampant this season. There are several injuries that are still plaguing the team, but we're at the part of the season where the SEC championship is at the very least locked in. So we have the opportunity to take some guys out and let them rest for a little while longer. The ones that could change in the foreseeable future are the very exciting ones. Dominic Blaylock, could see him back this game, is what we're hearing. Media Day also said that Jamari Sawyer is most likely just out for right now, and we may see him later on. George Pickens is practicing with a scout team, so he is still moving in that very good direction. So we have lots of good things coming for us. Is there anything else you've heard in the realm of just general news before we hop into the more objective side of this thing?
I have sort of a theory that Jamari Sawyer, Dominic Blaylock, George Pickens are, I'm not saying like Illuminati confirmed 5D chess kind of things, but I would imagine that Kirby is preparing them to play in Atlanta, right? It would not shock me if one of them surprisingly played at Charleston Southern or Georgia Tech. And I think Kirby is going to do his damned best to make sure that is something that comes as a surprise to whoever we are playing. And so I don't think it's going to be like a Jalen Tua situation where it's like JT Daniels comes off the bench, George Pickens comes off the bench, and we come back and win. But I do think that Kirby is preparing to have his best players against the best team we'll play this year, probably, right? So that's not really that's like a pretty obvious statement, and I'm not saying he's holding anybody out unnecessarily, but I would also imagine that he's trying to get them as healthy as possible, and he's not going to take any risk because he just wants them to be there if they can only play one game to play in Atlanta, right?
There are, I do want to just, what is really interesting about, as we are about to move into the stats portion of this, I think that we've heard the same kind of narrative, they have a good offense several times this season. And I was just reminded of that by somebody in our Discord. Kyle Sargent was just saying, didn't Kentucky have a good offense? Not so much. Florida was supposed to have a good offense, we were told. Auburn is supposed to have a good offense. They have Bo Nix, of course, the third coming of Jesus. And then Arkansas had everyone was surprised by how good their offense was. And so, we have lots of points of reference that we can kind of reference back to. So I'm looking forward to digging into it. Do you want to kind of get us started?
Yeah, on our stats situation.
Oh yes,
so,
yes, baby.
I tried to treat this one more as in my research, tried to treat this as more of a sort of introduction to the University of Tennessee football team this year, especially introduction to Tennessee's offense, just because we're dealing with a new coach, and to some extent, Dan Mullen and what Dan Mullen does is sort of a known commodity. What Kirby Smart does is sort of a known commodity. Even even when we played Arkansas, like the Briles tree with Kendall Briles, that is the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, is a known commodity. This is really a truly new to the SEC conference. Well, ish. Heupel was at Missouri, so not really that new, but new to at least to most people listening to this kind of offense. So, wanted to just start from the top down, talk about their offense, talk about the defense, and then we can talk maybe about how things match up. So, Tennessee's offense is good. They are probably like top 15 offense. I believe they're 12th on offense per SP plus. Pretty sure they're in like the top 20-ish in FEI, offensive FEI. Per unadjusted EPA, this is adjusted for garbage time, but not adjusted for the caliber of opponent. They are currently 23rd in the nation in unadjusted offensive EPA. They can run the ball more than you would think. I think that's one of my big takeaways. But a lot of what they do runs through Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker is a real weapon. He's a transfer, I believe, from Virginia Tech. A tall guy, a very good quarterback. And one of the things to remember about this offense, like one of the things that it really works around is RPO, and also RPO with read option tags. And Hendon Hooker is their most. He's not only their quarterback, but he's also their most prolific rusher on the season. He's sort of the entire sort of team's offense sort of revolves around Hendon Hooker. So Josh Heupel's offense pulls from a lot of different places. So lots of spread concepts. Worked with Scott Frost, I believe, when he was at UCF in 2017. But Heupel, he's a guy who they're going to play space and pace, right? They're going to snap the ball a lot. They're going to snap the ball really quickly. They're going to have very wide splits on their wide receivers. They're going to have their wide receivers near the sideline most of the time. And they're going to run the ball at you out of that set more than you think. They're currently running something like 52% of the time right now. I think they actually have a higher run rate than UGA at this point in the season. And so, out those runs, a lot of times they come out of traditional sets, but a lot of times they'll run RPOs. They tend to run these really long developing RPOs where the quarterback holds the ball in front of the running back's stomach for what seems like ages before reading one of the defensive linemen and then handing the ball off, tucking it and running, or throwing it over everyone's head. And I think those RPOs are going to be a real key for what Georgia does defensively. But Hooker, he's 244 dropbacks, 186 attempts, 129 completions, 150 catchable balls, 123 on target balls. So he's thrown more catchable balls than he has completions, which tells me that he's outperforming his wide receivers to some extent. 1,894 yards, 855 air yards. So about 40% of his yards are coming through the air. So he's not just throwing short and letting people run, but he's not necessarily bombing the ball constantly either. 1635 intended air yards, so he's missed some deep shots. 21 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 27 sacks on 70 pressures. That 70 pressures number kind of stands out to me. So
that is interesting.
Yeah, Hooker throws a lot to his right. He's a right-handed quarterback, so that makes sense. Throws behind the line of scrimmage. He's thrown 25 passes behind the line of scrimmage to the right, 28 to the left. But, I mean, his real kind of like bread and butter in terms of completions and like where he really hammers is the right side of the field between 0 and 10 yards. They will throw a lot of short stuff. They'll throw a lot of wide receiver screens, a lot of like little dig outs. And they'll throw the sideline a good amount and try to make you miss. I think one of the big challenges of this game is going to be not just coverage busts, but just keeping Tennessee's wide receivers in front of us, tackling in the open space, which is luckily something we're good at. But ultimately, despite all the hype, this is still a UT team that is 70th in unadjusted explosiveness, and that to me has to do with the fact that this team is actually a little bit more ground and pound than you think. They will throw the ball deep on you. In particular, at 20 plus yards, Hooker has been really lethal going to his left. He actually has 5 touchdowns going to his left, 20 yards down the field. He's 6 for 14, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 43% success rate, which is pretty good. Hooker is a guy who will bomb it on you, but he is a willing runner. He's relatively accurate. is a good offense, right? And he's a good quarterback for it. On the year, he is currently he's rushed 112 times for 457 yards, 4.1 yards average, and 4 touchdowns. So he will run to scramble. He will run on design plays. By comparison, he has the most rush attempts on the team. Tyon Evans, who is their biggest running back, has 81 rush attempts for 521 yards. So he's a guy who will run. He'll run off of RPO. He'll run off the scramble. Tennessee's offense is, I mean, they're wide open, right? They're gonna run it down your throat, and they're gonna try to get guys out of the box to run it down your throat by putting very wide splits on their wide receivers. They're gonna bomb it deep on top of you, and they're gonna throw the ball underneath and try to get their skill guys one-on-one with the defense and try to make you miss a tackle. Mm-hmm. Temperamentally, like, this is a very UCF-y team. If you've ever watched 2017 UCF, this is pretty much that, maybe with worse execution and a little bit worse players, or maybe higher quality of talent players, but players that aren't as well as developed, right?
Does this hurt you? I see you just putting your hands in your face.
No. I mean, it's good. I like to, the way I avoid anxiety is by sizing up my problems, right? So
getting real nitty gritty. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vellus Jones Jr. is another name that you want to listen to. Is their most want to have in mind. He's their most prolific threat in the air. 5 touchdowns on 36 receptions. Interestingly enough, they run shot variations about 6% of the time. So this is stuff like fade, goal line fade, all go, cross fade, stuff like that. But it accounts for 10% of their yards, which tells me that that's a very effective play for them, because they're getting basically an extra 4% of yards over times that they've attempted it, right? They're getting 4% more of yards than percentage of the time that they attempt that play. So, they're going to throw it deep on you after they soften you up by getting you running left to right on these underneath things and running it up the middle, right? And so I think that presents a pretty clear challenge to UGA's defense, right? You're going to have to be able to defend the RPO and defend the run with 5 or 6 guys in the box, and you're going to have a really good game from your inside linebackers and your safeties. I thought one of the sort of worst kept secrets of Saturday's win was that Nakobe Dean didn't have a particularly impactful day, and I think this is a game where you really need Nakobe Dean to be impactful.
Yeah.
So subjectively, I mean, I think this is the most functional offense UGA has played this year. Now, they certainly are, SP Plus would tell you that Florida has better offense. I think SP Plus has like Georgia's offense 6, Florida's like 9, and then this offense is like 12, something like that. So that's off the top of my head. You can look it up more specifically. But so I wouldn't say that production-wise this is the best offense that we've played. But I think just in terms of the course of the season and like sort of the rise of the fall of what's happening, we're hitting this offense when they really have some good mojo going on. They're really hitting their peak. Whereas we played Florida after they'd already been pretty demoralized, and we demoralized them more. Yeah. That's not, I don't know how relevant that is to the actual outcome of the game, but it's worth saying that like you need to come out of this game fast, right?
Yeah.
They run the ball way more than you think to be a pace and space team. They like to run it in the open. They like to send Hooker outside of the tackles. Hooker is a willing scrambler. He will take a rollout for 10 yards every time. However, they've been hella inconsistent, right? They scored less than 30 points a game on both Florida and Alabama. Defensively, subjectively they're bad, and in the numbers they're pretty bad. They are currently in unadjusted EPA. This defense is ranked 61st. They're 96th or 92nd in pass down EPA rank. They're 95th in line yards ranks. They've been giving up pretty efficient short yardage runs, and they're 76th in success rate, 47th in explosiveness rate. So it's like this is not really a defense that does anything too particularly well, right? They're top 30 in havoc. They're decent against the run. They're mediocre to bad against the pass. They're bad on standard downs, right? I think passing on standard downs is going to be a big deal for us offensively, and they're bad at stuff rate, right? I mean, the thing is, with a decent EPA and a bad step rate, like this is the kind of team that UGA has to figure out how to run consistently against, because they're gonna almost ask you to. They run a lot more 4-down linemen than we do. They run some tight stuff the way we do that we would call mint front, but a lot of their stuff is 4-down linemen, and they just over pursue, or they don't tackle, or they like rush themselves out of the play. They like run past the running back. So in that sense, I think that we'll have some success against them, but they do have pretty good penetrators, and they do run blitz, right? So this is one of those games where it's like, God almighty, we should be able to run the ball, but I just don't have confidence that we will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much the picture. Do you have anything you want to add stats-wise other than that?
I'm kind of curious. So I'm looking down on their average time of possession per game, and it's around 24 minutes, which I mean is not great unless they're like a really efficiently explosive team. Is that the case with this team? And if so, like what I'm thinking is if Georgia do Georgia and Georgia do defense the way Georgia do defense, will they be able to stop this team? And if they do stop this team, will they then just kind of get chippy and try to beat us with explosive plays? And will it be successful? How successful will it be?
Well, I think you're going to have to beat Georgia on the explosive plays this year, no matter who you are. I think that Georgia has shown that if you try to run underneath, we try to run from side to side, you're pretty much sunk. So they're going to take some shots. I imagine there's going to be a trick play or two. I don't know that this is. I mean, I just don't know this is a team that you can have multiple sustained drives against, which you're going to need to. So I'm imagining Heupel knows that and is going to bomb it pretty good. They get explosive plays in the run game by running it up down your throat until they feel like passing, and then when you adjust, they just run it back down your throat. And if you don't adjust quick enough, they will run right by you. So I think that this is, if not the best team that we've played this year, because that's still probably Florida, it's probably the second best team we played this year, just from a purely in-season perspective. I don't know. What do you want to see in this? What are you looking for here?
Well, that was actually about to hit you with the second question for that. As far as what do we want to see from this game, what is it that we see in this game and say, oh no, things are going poorly for us? I think it obviously revolves around this Hooker. And so I know there were previous teams that we played already who, you know, with Emory Jones from Florida and also Bo Nix, like all of these different QBs who are meant to be these playmakers. And it seems like Hendon Hooker is actually a playmaker and he's going to do a lot of great things if we allow him, essentially. It seems like very much like this season, the narrative of the season is it's our season to lose now. And it seems like every game is a smaller, like a itty bitty version of it's ours to lose. And so with this defense being so commanding, what is it this defense could do to screw that up? And what is it that Hooker could do either in response or proactively to make all of us collectively kind of crap our pants?
Well, I mean, you know, this earlier in the year, Josh Fanning at South Carolina got behind this defense a couple of times. I think if you're seeing guys running free behind cornerbacks, that's definitely one concern. It's not even Hendon Hooker. But, I mean, in terms of Hooker, one thing that you want to be worried about is if he's fooling linebackers on RPOs. Like if he's able to pull the ball and throw over our heads to a slant, that's bad because that's what they want to do. One thing that you have hope for if you're a UGA fan, and I hope implies that like we're worried probably more than we are. This is not a team that surrenders a lot of havoc. They're 18th on the season in the nation in havoc, but this is a team where, I mean, Hendon Hooker is at risk, right? And I think one of the things I want to see is like, you don't want to hurt Hendon Hooker, and I don't want to knock him out of the game or whatever, but like he has had some runs that you watch against like Kentucky and Florida, and you're like, yeah, that's going to get you decleated if you play that way against Georgia, and that's one of the things I really think is going to change the game. Is if UGA can get in his face and get him to the ground, that I think really changes the game because I don't think they run him much after that because they can't afford to lose him. Like they've got Joe Milton, who I believe transferred right now, but their second most passes in a player is Joe Milton with 21, and then Harrison Bailey with 3. And I'm pretty sure Harrison Bailey is suspended for this game. So it's like they cannot afford to lose him. So I think if we can hit him a couple of times, that's really going to change what they're able to play. He has a little bit of like the Will Levis, like Tim Tebow, Matt Stafford kind of did this too, where it's like he'll run sometimes and you're like, how is this working? He's so gangly. He looks so weird. He's flailing around, and then he still gets like 15 yards on you. And so I think that those are the opportunities where Georgia is going to have to really come through in terms of hitting him hard and making him feel it, basically.
So what are some things overall, other than those just things you just shared with me, that you want to see?
Pass on standard down. They're not very good on standard downs. If you can run or pass, they're not good at it. I think play action shots early in the game in the first quarter. I just wrote JT goddamn Daniels. That's just what I want. I can't explain it anymore. Stetson Bennett has been perfectly fine. I just look whatever.
Adequate.
And you got to start fast. You got to score 10, 14 points in the first quarter if you want to not get buried by this team. And I don't think this team is going to bury UGA, but the longer they can stick around, the closer they get to winning, and the more of a win that is for them overall. So I think start fast, come out, put in the knife from the get-go, and you'll be in pretty good shape. But if you screw around against this team playing in Neyland on that awful turf, you can lose this game. I don't think I would predict UGA to win it, but I'm just saying you could lose this game. Like, they have talent. What are you thinking?
You're right. I mean, this team is a very interesting offensive situation that we have to play against. And one thing that I am concerned about that has worked really well for Georgia in the past already this season is just stopping the run game. And I think that if we can effectively stop either the pass or the run game. We've been pretty good against both. But this Tennessee team is a better running team than I think we've played for the most part. And you're right, it comes from different pieces. But they're averaging roughly 216. I think it's 216 yards a game on the ground. And as a team, Georgia is now allowing. I don't know where it is. I actually just accidentally closed out that window. But it's not 216, and so I'm kind of curious what that's going to look like, how those two things mesh up. But I think that I want to see the same things you do. I want to see a good game. I want to see a game that nobody gets injured going to Tennessee and messes up any knees. I want to see Tennessee fans acting right. No trash thrown on the field.
Good luck with that, man.
I just want to see. I want to see the last few of these games. I texted you this morning. I'm already looking forward to the championship, the SEC championship, now that it's locked up, because we have to start planning. This is a media show, and we have to plan XYZ, and if we want to have any guests, or if we want to do this or that. And so, I just want this team to be able to do the same thing. Begin looking to the future. Let this game be what it is. Do what you came to do. Get it done easily, and it's just kind of a blip, a flash in the pan. And then we move on. That's more or less what I want this to be. I don't want this to be consequential in any way. This is really what I'm wanting out of this game. You know what I mean?
Well, look, Tennessee's been really, really inconsistent this year. In the games that they've lost, they've looked pretty bad and they've looked outmatched. And I think psychologically, I'm not necessarily a momentum type person, but this is a game played by humans. And I think psychologically that if you can bury them in the first quarter, that they may not get back up, right? I think if you let them hang around, then that's when the more this team believes they can run with Georgia, the bigger problem we're going to have. Now, if it's a close game, but it's pretty clearly like the dam is slowly going to break on them, that's fine. But if you have a couple of picks or you have a turnover, they get a defensive score, that's when I think you're going to get into trouble.
Nathan fell asleep.
No, it's good. I just had to return a text. I'm sorry.
Okay. You were all good.
I'm logging out.
In the video, you could just kind of see, it looks like you're leaning your head against the desk. But
sorry.
Let's hit some over-unders then real quick. Now that we've kind of we've painted a beautiful tapestry, let's wrap it up and get this thing to auction. So first over-under for you.
We're only 43 minutes in. Holy crap.
We're doing it.
We're flying through this thing. I believe in us. All right, carry on.
First over-under for you. David Pollock, I mentioned David Pollock earlier. He thinks that this Tennessee team is going to score more than anyone else has this season against Georgia. So my first over-under for you is Tennessee, 13.5 points.
Over.
Really?
I think this team probably has 2 touchdown drives in them.
Okay. So you think it's just the 2? You don't think they're going to get like 3 or anything fancy?
I think this team could probably score 20 on us, like a couple of field goals, a couple of touchdowns.
Okay. I gotta look at it with the rose-tinted glasses. I gotta say under. I think there's precedent already for this team being proud of what they've done so far with putting the ones back on the field against, who was it, Kentucky, trying to get them not to score 13 in garbage time, and so I think that's something that they're pretty proud of. So I'm going to say under for the sake of saying under, and I'll cross my fingers. I hope we get there. I know it's less likely statistically speaking, but what do you got?
I would like to do over under 1.5 Hooker interceptions.
Well, I thought I saw 1.4 before in the notes, and I was like, are there
Yeah, I'm
half
not sure why
interceptions?
that
I don't
was.
think so. I thought I
Yeah.
was wrong for a moment. I'm gonna say under. He's been pretty good. He's been pretty on target all season. He's only got like 3 interceptions all season. Is that right?
I think it's 2.
He has 2.
I'm
Okay.
gonna also yeah. Um, I'm gonna also say under. I think he's gonna probably take care of it. I think he might have a fumble or have like a strip sack or whatever, but I don't know that we could have
I can see one.
a.
We're good for
I
one
don't
each
know that we'll
game.
throw deep. Yeah.
All right. As I said before, Tennessee is averaging around 216 yards on the ground, and Georgia is allowing much less than that. So, at the end of the day, Tennessee over under 120 and a half rushing yards.
Oh, I think under, man. I think they're gonna have to score in the air through against us if they score.
Okay. Yeah, I think the same. I mean, we're in lockstep, unfortunately, so far. What do you got?
We had one disagreement against the 13 and a half points.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Well, I'll say 0.5 UGA turnovers. So that is turnovers committed by UGA.
Okay, I understand. I was like looking at your next one, and I was like, that doesn't make sense to what I just read. But uh, what is our turnover ratio now? Do you know? We're two turnover ratio. Okay.
Yeah, +2, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it could happen. They've got good backs. Yeah, I'll say over. I don't like doing that. I don't like doing that.
I'll say under. Although I don't know. I think if we start stat might have one in them, but I'll say under just to be different.
Okay. And you have one final one for us?
Yeah, 0.5 UGA defensive scores.
Bring it home. Bring it home. Give me another.
Bring it home, boys.
Hit him over. Do it,
Okay,
big.
yeah. I'm also gonna say over. I think sometimes Hooker puts the ball in danger with the way he runs. I think that this offensive line is okay, but not great. And I just think that we'll probably get a strip sack out of it. I think, or a block punt or something. I think we're going to have a big havoc play in here defensively.
You remember the original Xbox and how big it was?
Yeah.
That's this Georgia football team. They're big like Xbox, baby. So big. Love it. That has nothing to do with anything other than
just went in there and modded it and just got so you could use ROMs on it and update the software.
I got a duffel bag for my damn Xbox so I can play it at LAN parties with my friends. This thing is huge. I need a damn sling to bring in, a trundle bag. Leave that at home.
Just like UGA football somehow. This thing is huge.
I got the XL JanSport, baby. All right, hit me with the prediction for this overall game.
Oh yeah, that was the pro move. I think this is gonna be a game that UGA maybe starts a little faster in. I think this is a game that is going to remain competitive because I think Tennessee has a pretty good offense and they're going to move the ball on UGA a little bit. I think that we're going to really see how much we've missed and Adam Anderson this weekend, just with maybe losing contain a couple of times against Hooker for big gains, maybe giving up a big play that would have otherwise been a sack in the passing game, stuff like that. Ultimately, I think this is a game that we win relatively comfortable. I think I have us covering by like 1 point, although I wouldn't swear to that. I have this at 41-20. This feels like a game that is kind of going to be close at halftime, even with UGA having a decent start, just because Tennessee has a pretty good offense, right? I will say, I think this is a game that could get out of hand for Tennessee, because if you can't, I'm predicating this being a close game at first on the idea that if Tennessee can make UGA hold serve, right? If Tennessee can score enough to make UGA have to press, then I think that's how this is a close game going into halftime. But I think if you're Tennessee and you're not moving the ball reliably and you let Georgia dictate the terms of the game, where they just don't give you the ball back and they try to have these 10-play drives that last like 5 minutes, it could get really out of hand. Because if Georgia can rest its defense like that and start teeing off on you and get a couple of turnovers, then the game's just over. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee definitely has an offense built to come back. Like, they can throw the ball deep, but that also is going to put them in that puts them in conflict with not trying to turn the ball over sometimes.
I've been going forth with all this different football math on my prediction, and I've been trying to figure out, because this is a game I feel like I could predict a safety in this game. Not that it really like comes out in the final, you wouldn't be able to like math it out if the score really is in the 30s or 40s for Georgia, but I could see it happening, and I could foresee that happening with this offensive line for Tennessee, and all the pressures that Hooker has actually seen this year, which is really more of a testament, I feel, to him, that there haven't been more sacks, because he is so mobile. So I do think there's a chance that might happen, especially if we're able to shut down the run game and they keep trying to get it started. There's a chance that earlier in the game, if they still are trying to set up the run game, that we might pressure them down into their own side. We could see a safety. I think we'll see a few field goals. I think we'll see several touchdowns. My final prediction, I was waffling between Georgia 43-13 or Georgia 50-13, just because that sounded fun and cool, I'll go big. I mean, they've gone bigger usually, I feel, for me, and 50-13 feels weird and good. Is kind of where I like to live my life, right there in that space.
That sounds like a Tennessee Georgia game to me.
Weird and good.
And not always good.
All right, let's get to our favorite segment of the show. What do you say? Come along now, children. Ready. Come along now. This is the Ask CBC segment. If you would like to hear your questions asked on this show, because why would you not? You could make sure to get them to us through a variety of methods. You could DM us, slide in them DMs, get your question in there. You could tag us with a hashtag AskCBC prior to recording on Sundays and Wednesdays and or Thursdays or whatever day we just kind of get around to doing this thing, because that tends to be, it happens sometimes. Or you could just kind of, shove a little sheet in Nathan's pocket. You ever see him with a question, or hit us on Gmail, because that seems to be my favorite way of getting them to us these days, chapelbellcurve@gmail.com. Without further ado, the first question comes in from Matt Zilla. Matt Zilla asks, "Hello, Justin and Nathan. I hope this email finds you both well. Thanks for the Sagrada recommendation. It is a great game that's now semi-permanently deployed on the living room table. In the same category, I recommend the game Azul, if you haven't played it already. Also a very good game. 2 questions and a rant for you gentlemen. Why, 1, do the Redcoats not polish their Souzas? 2, you mentioned Twilight Imperium a few pods ago. What is your favorite race to play? I'm a big fan of the snaky mind readers." Rant. Actually, we'll get to the rant in a second. This is from Matzell Alexander. I'll get to the rant. Do you want to answer these questions first?
Yeah, so the first one, the answer is that we do polish. This year, we have bell covers on because of COVID mitigation strategies. But UGA actually has the finish on the Redcoat sousaphones on the bodies of the horns are not mirrored silver, which is the traditional finish for most silver brass instruments. They're what's called satin silver. UGA's sousaphone section actually self-identifies as the satin silver Sousas. We're one of the very few Sousa sections that I know of in college marching band that does this at all. So while they appear not to be polished sometimes, and sometimes they can get pretty dirty, they just aren't. That they don't ever have a mirror polish on the bodies.
Yeah. And second question: what race are you? Do you know the game well enough to say what race you like to play?
I can't remember what it is, but I really like the sciencey guys who can grade science, and it's the faction, right? Factions. I like playing science and advancement kind of, usually in these 4X games. That's what I like to try to play, and I believe they're called the Universities of Joel Nar. I really like the
Hi, I'm Joel Nar.
I'm Joel Nar, and these are my universities. Many of them.
Welcome to my Imperium. This one's the Twilight kind. I'm here to tell you about it.
We've had a lot of good fun in this PSA about Twilight Imperium. I'm your host, Joel Nar. Let's get real, folks.
So I don't know a lot about Twilight Imperium, unfortunately. I've seen it played, and I have zero interest in playing it. But I could be convinced. I have just had zero interest to this point. I do love space exploration. That's pretty cool. But I don't like doing a thing for 10 hours in a row. Mm-hmm. That is kind of where I'm at. But as we speak, I'm vamping right now because I'm currently taking a what race am I in Twilight Imperium test. I'm just kind of seeing how far I can get until I actually get to the end of the quiz and can provide an answer to this question. It's incredibly difficult to read and talk and take my cat off of me in the middle of all this. What race do you want to be? I don't know. Boom. What did I get? I got the Yssaril tribes. So there's your answer. The Yssaril tribes. What do they do?
Good.
What's that about? If there's a
know.
robot faction, I want to do them. I'll just say that. Next question. Oh, actually, rant. Here you go. What in the world are people smoking that makes them think Cincinnati's a top 4 team? Oh, boy, Madzilla. They have a win over crap Notre Dame team, and somehow they're supposed to be of the same caliber as Bama, Oregon, Ohio State, and us. They are especially special with their fumbling the ball and a victory formation skills. I'm tired of their disrespect nonsense, he said, quote unquote. Until we rock and Rocky Top, have a great week, Madzilla.
I mean, I think they're a pretty fundamentally sound team, but they're not doing themselves any favors with just how they're playing with their food, basically. Yeah. I mean, I think they're pretty good. I don't know that they're a top 5 team, but I do think that they have, they're as undefeated as anybody at this point.
Mm-hmm. My thing is, I just like a good story, and I think Binturongs are really cool, and I think that if you don't got to have a perfect season, then what's the point? Right. Dr. Dope Short MD asks, why is Greg McElroy the worst?
Yeah, apparently he was talking crap about Alabama and us on the broadcast. I didn't hear it. I don't really have any opinions about McElroy. I think he's sort of kind of vanilla to me, but I know a lot of people don't like him.
Yep. I don't have many opinions of Greg McElroy. I don't like many of the announcers, though. Imnedvidek asks, over under 19.5 iterations of the Rocky Top musical theme next weekend.
Oh my God. Okay, so here's a question. Does he mean it's played 19.5 times? Because if that's the case, then yeah, like you could give me 1,000 and I'd take the over. But is he talking about like different versions of Rocky Top, right? Then I would take the under. Because I think they only play like 2 versions of Rocky Top.
How miserable would it be to be given Rocky Top and they're like, this is when we play, this is what we play when this happens, this is what we play when this happens. And here are all of the different iterations of that song that we play in very specific instances.
That's essentially what UGA does. It's also what Florida State does. I mean, with Glory and the chop, the chant or whatever. But yeah, they don't have quite as many over in Tennessee.
That's what I was
thinking.
Say
under, 19.5. But over if you're talking how many times they'll play it, because they might play it like 100 times.
Yeah, I could see it happening. Eric Gluckman, everybody knows special teams wins games, and defensively the Dogs seemingly have a good thing going. But what are we doing to do about the offensive special team situation? Might it all be overridden by defense wins championships?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're talking about kick return and punt return, we've had some bad luck, some bad penalties this year, had some fumbles, some muff fumbles. I think the biggest thing that makes our offensive special teams bad to this point in the year is that they just haven't had much of an impact. And so that's what I think is kind of weighing down our average. Have a really good punter. And, I think also just had some sort of stupefying misses from what was a very good kicker last year who, seems to be having, I don't want to say the yips, but having a little bit of a problem. But I think that all of that, I think if you can just break even on special teams when you have a defense this good, then you're good to go.
Gail Self, what's with the sluggish starts? I get that teams are trying to stop the run early, but Monken knows that. If teams want to play 7-8 in the box early, why not use 3 and 4 wide receiver packages and pass first? I feel like this happens eventually. It just takes about a quarter too long.
Yeah, so before we answer Kale's question, I do want to say that Eric Gluckman, who asked the last question, is a redcoat. He's a Athens trombone president. And then Kale was actually my Sousa instructor at UGA, but now he's the I think director of athletic bands over at West Georgia. But anyway, I think the biggest problem with the sluggish starts is our scripts. The first 2 drives, or at least 1 drive of most offenses in college football and pro football, you come out of the gate knowing pretty much the first 20-ish plays you're going to run. And I just think our scripts have been a little bit conservative, and they've really tended way too much to like inside zone stuff or, read option stuff that's obviously going to the running back or throwing behind the line of scrimmage. So some of that probably has to do with the caliber of competition that we've been playing. However, this also happened against Florida, that was a big game, right? So I just think we need to be a little bit more liberal with our opening scripts, and that'll really help a lot of it.
Abby, stage manager for life. She asks, what sound do Bearcats make? Wrong answers only.
Just like a. No, that's probably too accurate. Okay.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, I think they probably make the sound of like, when you're showing up somewhere late, but you're getting there and like it's a big group, and you're trying to like walk in the door really quietly, but it's a really heavy door. Yeah, well, no, not that. The sound of like it's really quiet because you came in, you tried to like choose the opportune moment to come in the door, and you're closing it real softly, and you turn around and you realize everyone's noticed you, but it's that sound of like when you pull your chair out slightly and it makes a really unfortunate like squeaky sound, and everybody has already noticed you and they've noticed you, like it intensifies at that moment. I think that's the sound they make, probably.
I think they sound like a really raspy, nasally northeastern guy at like a hot dog stand, like, "Hey, Sharon."
Have you ever heard the doves cry?
You mean the Prince song, or just like when an actual dove cries?
What's the difference?
Well, the Prince song is a masterpiece. There's a cover of it in the Romeo plus Juliet soundtrack.
Oh, I think the Binturongs probably sound like the Romeo plus Juliet soundtrack, like just from start to finish. Every time they open their mouths.
I mean, when Binturongs are sad, they just open their mouth and it's a Radiohead song. It's just like burr, 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 and then just young Leonardo DiCaprio writing bad poetry in his notebook.
Ugh.
All right.
Just a couple of sad teens. That's Binturongs.
Yeah.
That's the Binturong way.
100%.
Chris D in London asks, a question I wished I had asked at the time. What would Humphrey Mizzou's D&D stats be? I'll just ask you what his alignment is mostly, but we can talk about his stats if we want to.
Oh, chaotic neutral. Might save your life, might steal your wife. 100%.
Charisma through the roof. He's like 21. It's impossible by any standard, but he's got it.
Yeah. Yeah, but he also has like, it's those little, he's an ungulate. I think we established that he has cloven hooves. So I think simultaneously, like high charisma, low dex, like 8 dex. Right?
I think he's an artificer as well.
Yeah, but also freakishly strong. Like weird corded muscle, like maybe 14 in strength.
I think, great strength, really low constitution, though. He has a terrible stomach. He can only eat very specific foods. He's allergic to most things.
He's hundreds of years old, but he's colicky. He also, I would say, very, very high intelligence, low wisdom.
So much charisma.
Wisdom, I think, is the other. Wisdom is the other dump stat, and most of the points are in charisma.
And this inspires. How would you describe Jordan Davis as a D&D character? Attributes, class, level, skills.
Okay, here's the thing. Now, I know it's tempting to be like 18 in strength, 18 in constitution, and that's probably true. I actually think Jordan Davis has like 10 is human average. Most football players are probably at 12. Jordan Davis is probably only at like 14 or so in strength, and then maybe 13 or 12 in constitution. I mean, he does have to come out of the game sometimes because he's a big guy. I think he has pretty high dexterity. I think his dexterity might be as high as his strength.
Very high.
14. I think I don't know him personally, so I couldn't say anything about wisdom or charisma, but I'm imagining pretty good charisma. But I actually think his best stat is intelligence, because I think one of the things that he's best at is game awareness and like tackle shedding and like vision, and like his sort of like kinesthetic intelligence is very high, and just his ability to move in space and understand like the physical relationship between him and the people around him, and also just have an awareness of where people are at all times. I think it's probably his biggest. Like, obviously he has insane strength compared to a normal human, but like I think the thing he does that is like superhuman is his just sort of like game awareness, which to me feels like intelligence.
Yeah.
Or like wisdom, maybe. Like wisdom is the perception stat, so maybe it's high wisdom.
Final question from Christy in London. How badly was JT Daniels' draft stock been damaged by the Sears injuries? And is it at all realistic that they might convince him to come back for one more season to properly show what he can do?
I don't think he'll come back. I think it's hurt his draft stock, but I still think he might be a day 2 pick because the quarterback class is not very good this year. So I don't think he's any longer probably a first round pick kind of guy, but I think he could go in rounds 2 through 4 maybe. But I don't know anything about the draft.
Who can say? Eric Russell, are the Redcoats doing anything to guard against flying water bottles and golf balls at Neyland?
We're actually not nearly as close to the field as UT's band is. UT's band is in, I think, significantly more danger. from those like big arcing shots.
That's good. I was pretty concerned about that. We'll see. Lucky Rubes. Does it seem like the turf at UT is unusually loose, or does this just seem like kind of bias based on past experiences?
It is. I have read and I heard when I was over at UT, when I lived in Knoxville, there's a lot of talk about how because of the angle of where the Neyland sits on the river, and also because it has very it has very high steep walls all the way around, and also it is like on one side, the field is below street level on one side. The side away from the river, the street is actually above the field level. Like you come in about midway through the stadium. That makes it apparently very hard to get sun on the field, and also very hard to drain because it is sort of landlocked by a bunch of other buildings, similar to UGA, but with a little bit less space, I would say, because there's roads all around it, and there's like a parking deck right on it, and then it itself houses like a massive underground complex underneath it, which makes it very hard to drain. So my understanding is that like that is something that people take into account when they plan to play Tennessee, like different cleats, all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. That was actually, I mean, playing Ultimate Frisbee, we did the same thing. Like some fields, you had to change your cleat style. You can take out some cleats or some spikes in your shoes and put in different ones, just depending on where you're going and where you're playing. Mm-hmm. It's important. Okay, Sarge. Now, I'm not a football surgeon or anything, and here's his disclaimer, but all the postulating about which quarterback gives us the best chance to win against an elite defense has me wondering, wouldn't that be easy to figure out during practice? If Stet and JT are both getting chances to line up against the defensive starters, even not at full speed, the coaches are getting an idea of how they'll perform versus a playoff caliber opponent. Parentheses. I'm aware the scout teams exist, and it's probably not normal for the ones on both sides of the ball to line up against each other at practice, but I have to think that iron sharpens iron, and if you need to know how they'll perform against a great defense, having the best defense to practice against can't hurt. Close parentheses.
Well, this is a good question, and he's right. I mean, they do have 1v1 periods. They have good on good periods every week in practice, multiple periods, and that is why Stet is starting, is because he's looked better in practice. I think if you gave and Kirby, I think, because this is how he communicates as a coach, might be a touch reductive about saying, well, it's all about who plays the best in practice, which it is. But talking about who's playing the best in practice, it's sort of like it's like measuring speed versus measuring acceleration, right? Speed, you can take it a snapshot. Acceleration, you have to have some kind of like time curve, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not just about who's playing the best practice, but it's about like where they are in the progression. Like, I think probably JT played himself into the snaps that he got last weekend. And I believe that he probably had not been practicing well because he was rusty. I think that people would argue that, ultimately you have to give him some game snaps to get him in shape, because you can go against the number one defense in practice all you want, but ultimately you're not getting hit at practice. And you're not getting hit, and the other team knows you're not getting hit. So no matter how competitive you are, no matter how good a practice player you are, it's just a different thing when you're in the actual game with a hostile crowd. And I think too, like, I think that JT is going to get more playing time as we go forward. I think Stetson will probably start this weekend, but I think JT will play more than he has in the past.
Mm-hmm. Final question, Splooey, aka Mr. Jacob R. Borland. What even is a hollaback girl?
I mean, a few times I've been around that block, I guess. I thought a hollaback girl was like what we might call a thought in modern parlance.
No. It's someone perceived as a thought, but doesn't have any issue with hollering back.
Oh, well, good for her.
Yeah.
She's beautiful.
It's
Thank you for informing me.
Someone nasty saying, I bet she wants a compliment, and then yelling said compliment in an unsolicited way, and she lets them know, I did not want that compliment, in no shortage of words that are usually fairly colorful or derogatory, and deservedly so.
Good for her.
That's a hollaback girl. Gwen Stefani taught me.
That's what I have to say.
I did listen to a lot of Gwen Stefani growing up. Big fan.
Yeah, big fan here.
Big fan here. Big fans over here. Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you looking for something fun to do this holiday season?
I am, always.
Ugh, come celebrate the season in sunny Miami as Dorothy, Rose, Blanche, and Sophia, you know those names, right? They star in their brand new hilarious holiday presentation of The Golden Girls, The Lost Episodes Holiday Edition at Outfront Theater Company. Nathan, have you heard of them?
Yes, I have, because they are the workplace of our beloved Abby.
They are.
Who is, I believe, the stage manager there.
I assume she's the boss of the theater. Or the proprietor of some kind. She walks in with her monocle and her top hat.
It is, I believe, a theatre.
Theatre. The classical spelling. This is actually, did you know the Outfront Theater Company is the only LGBTQIA plus theater in the Southeast?
I did not know that.
It's a shame that that's the only one in the Southeast. Let me just say that right now.
That is a shame.
I am shamed. But the show will be running for 2 weekends, December 10th through the 19th, with Saturday shows at 8 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. and Sunday showings at 3 p.m. If you're like me, hit that Sunday 3 p.m. show up, because that is a wonderful time to be able to get to Atlanta, get back home from Atlanta, and not have to deal with the nighttime. I hate the nighttime. It's a terrible time. I wish it didn't exist. Check out Outfront Theatre's website for tickets and information about their COVID-19 policy, but also to see when the show's playing, because you probably didn't hear anything I just said. So go check it out. OutfrontTheatre.com. Haha.
Nice.
I should read ads for a living.
Yeah, you're good at it, man.
I love it. I've listened to so many podcasts. I was made for this. So.
You're so ready. All right, are we ready for our last segment?
I am ready for our last segment.
It's a powerful thing to go out on.
It really is. I always is. This is Yara's Rage Against the Machine. Rage so hard. Yara's Rage, November 10th, 2021. Yara's getting so much. Not. I don't want to say better, but it's really kind of growing into its own thing here. And we'll have to post this to the Twitter as well.
Format.
It's truly an art form now at this point. Number 1, describe how you think the game will go in 3 words. Go.
Rocky Top sucks. I don't know that I don't think Yara is going to this game and actually really, you're really saving yourself. You're saving yourself a bad experience. It's auditorially, it's a beautiful place. Knoxville is beautiful country, but the stadium and the auditory experience in said stadium is suboptimal. All right.
Yeah. Tennessee Volunteers. No. That's 3 words for me. 2, okay, don't clown me for this question, but who is George Pickens? I've heard a lot about him recently, but I don't know who he really is. Don't clown me. My brain is so smooth, dog.
And they've provided a helpful sort of
it's a beautiful brain you've drawn.
Diagram, of her brain versus their brain versus a normal brain. Okay, so I actually don't blame you for not knowing this, because George Pickens is by far UGA's best wide receiver, who blew his ACL out before the beginning of the year at practice. So given that you are a newly minted, one might even say puppy of a UGA fan, I think it's very reasonable that you would not know this, because he hasn't actually been healthy while you've been a UGA fan. Oh, I mean, he played last year, but he was number 1. He's number 1. That's his number. But obviously that was a suboptimal viewing experience for everyone.
For sure. Number 3, I have my first real weekend without any responsibilities. What should I do? What should you do?
I think we could give all sorts of things that we could do in Athens, but I would like to give you some hard-fought, post-college wisdom. Okay. I think for people who this is my read of Yara, but I'm not sure that this is true. But for people who hold themselves to a very high standard and are involved in a lot of things, which based on your email signature I know is the case, one thing that can be very, very hard is to give yourself to do permission to do whatever you want. And what I would say is, if I say, what do you want to do, and you don't know, then the answer can be nothing. It's a fine thing to do. It's a fine way to spend a weekend. If you want to spend a weekend sitting in your dorm watching reruns of a show you've already watched or reading a book you've already read, let yourself do that, because that's what you need. You know yourself better than me, right? If you want to go outside, I have some cool things that you could do. Athens is a very good farmer's market. If you haven't checked out botanical gardens, it's well worth your time. I don't think you're 21, so that limits some of the advice I could give. Go get a good, eating dinner alone, more fun than it seems like it would be.
I love it so much.
Going to a new restaurant alone and approaching it not as like, I'm sad, I'm not around anyone, but approaching it more as like, this is an experience that I get to have for me, and I'm taking myself on a date, can be very, very powerful. But I would say,
Yes.
you know, if I say, Yara, what do you want to do this weekend? And you don't know, the answer can be nothing, right?
Nothing is something.
Because nothing is something, right? Like,
nothing is something.
sitting around and doing the thing you like to do, whether that's play video games, watch bad TV shows, crochet, cross stitch, whatever.
Lay on the ground.
Yeah. Go home,
stare at the wall.
whatever you want to do. Yeah, I think giving yourself permission to be kind to yourself is one of the best things that you can do as a college student, right? And sometimes being kind to yourself is not doing anything. Like your value on this planet has nothing to do with your productivity. So like your relaxation time doesn't have to be productive. Like this weekend, I'm going to see my parents. I'm going to watch the game. I might go over to a friend's house for dinner, and then I'm going to play Magic the Gathering for like 8 hours.
Ad nauseum.
Yes, literally. I got that.
That's a Magic joke for those of you initiated. Based off what we saw last week, do you expect our Lord and Savior? I'm gonna sing that because it's beautiful script, and I want to try and translate that to this audio medium. Lord and Savior, JT Daniels to start and or play this weekend. Why or why not?
I think he will play. I don't know that he'll start. I don't think that you want your first start in 2 months to be on the road at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not really. We don't really need him to at this point, but we'll see. Get some reps in, bud. Do you have any strategies on how to get Jordan Davis to sign my sousaphone? That's the sound effect I added to the hearts all around Jordan Davis there for you.
And you know the actual way you get this done, Yara?
Yeah.
I'm telling you the actual way you get this done. Jordan Davis loves the band. Just DM him on something. Like Snapchat, Instagram, whatever. Like, slide into those DMs. I mean, like, figuratively, not... I mean, whatever you want to do. But
you're sending a lot of mixed signals right now.
Platonically slide into his DMs, all right? And see if you could get him to sign your horn. There we go.
Any recipe recommendations? Go. What? Say it again.
Oh, put some clear tape down before he signs it, because I don't want to have to clean it off your horn. All right,
that's fair.
Next.
Yeah. Any recipe recommendations? I want to cook something new, but I don't know what to make.
I don't know what their kitchen situation is.
I am going to...
No. You know what? I know they have an apartment. I remember. I know where they live, because I remember I saw a rant. So they have a kitchen. I don't know what the dietary restrictions are. Yara, you're on this call live. Are we looking vegetarian, vegan, or just like eating everything? Don't eat pork. Okay.
Heard.
So I like to pick a type of cuisine and experiment with it. I am a big Cuban food guy. Like my family's from Tampa, and so I have a lot of cultural experience with Cuban food from my childhood. I think it's fun to pick a cuisine and like just pick staples. Another very fun thing for me is to like work my way through a cookbook. I have a D&D cookbook that I've spent the last year working my way through. It's all recipes based on Dungeons and Dragons. That would be my advice if you're looking for a recipe. What do you think there, Justin?
We have in our home, we love tacos first and foremost, but that has branched into loves of other Latinx foods, specifically enchiladas. We have an enchiladas recipe that I actually just shared with the Discord that is my go-to enchilada recipe now. It has been perfected week over week. It is what got me through last year. I ate so many enchiladas. Everything you need for this is either at Kroger or at your local Mexican grocery store here in Athens. So go check it out. It's not difficult. It's super easy. And they heat up really well, and they're really, really delicious. The secret for us is in the method. Like, don't do anything fancy with your chicken. You just basically blanch it or boil it with some broth or some stock, and then you put the bay leaf, some peppercorns, some salt and pepper in there, and then you make that into your enchiladas. You also want to flash fry your tortillas. It is outstanding. If you want to get real wild, tortillas are surprisingly easy to make. Go ahead.
I have one other recipe that is so easy. Thai-style coconut curry. You need curry paste. You need a can of coconut milk. You need literally any vegetable that you want to stir fry, rice, and a protein. You just get everything stir fried up. You put the curry paste in the stir fry when it's still dry. cook it sort of dry for a little bit, put the coconut milk on it, add a little bit more curry paste, and just sort of cook it as a stew for like 5-10 minutes. Serve that crap over rice. You can make it as hot or as not hot as you want.
Serve that crap over
I mean,
rice.
if you want to make it hot, you can add some gochujaro or some like Thai chili paste, or even just like rooster sauce or whatever whatever Thai hot sauce you want to use. But it is so easy, and it is like one of my favorite dishes on this planet.
It's good stuff.
Red chili paste is the kind of paste you want.
Please, next question. Please explain what the plus/minus means in college football predictions, because a bitch is lost.
Okay, I'm confused about this one. I think she's talking about the annotation for the betting lines. Plus/minus. Plus/minus is usually a stat used in basketball and baseball to calculate like the impact of a player on a season, and it's in the NBA mostly. But I think that she means like I think plus/minus is like an over/under annotation is what she's talking about.
It could be that. It could also be the.
Okay, hold on.
It's
plus. Oh, okay. Plus. Yeah. UGA plus 48. Okay, I'll explain this.
This is a spread.
That is a bet. That is the spread. It's what's called a betting line. So, if you are an odds maker and you are taking bets on football, you cannot accept the same odds on two teams when they're unevenly matched. So, for instance, let's say UGA is playing like a high school team or whatever, some like Charleston Southern. Pretty much 99.99% of the time, UGA wins. If you were paying out $1 for every dollar bet on UGA, you would go bankrupt, right? Because everyone would just bet on UGA, because everybody knows no matter what happens, the end result is going to be the same, no matter what the score is, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can fix that. One of them is in the money line, and you can do juice or whatever. We don't want to talk about that. So over under, or not over under, but plus minus is the spread. So if we say the spread is UGA minus 40 points, what that means is if you bet on UGA, their score has to be over the opponent's score if you subtract 40 points. So basically, they have to win by 40. If you bet on an underdog, it's what's called taking the points. So what you're saying is they don't have to win. Their score just has to be higher than the team that's favored by, plus these points. So if UGA is not favored against Alabama and the line is UGA plus 5, if UGA wins, or if they lose by 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4, then you win, right? And it's a way to basically, it's a very good measure because Vegas is very good at predicting football games. So it's a very good measure of what Vegas thinks about the game. So for instance, UGA is minus 20.5. So Vegas thinks that UGA is going to win by about 20 points. And you're betting not whether or not UGA is going to win, but whether or not going to win by more or less than 21 points, right? So that's what the plus/minus is. It's the line.
Not a question, but I am going to use my chaos for good right now. Come to the Trombone Choirs concert tonight at 7:30. It's at Ramsey Hall. That is in exactly 54 minutes from the time you were.
Why are you
hearing
still
this
on this call? Dude, you got to get to rehearsal. Go.
It's gonna be so nice. Is beer actually good? That's another question. I hypothetically tried it once, and not gonna lie, it tastes like bread. It's part of it. A lot of grain in beer.
Yeah, I think beer is. There are a lot of types of beer. It's kind of like asking if wine is good. Like, I don't think everybody likes wine or everybody likes beer. I'm sure there are people who will try all the different types and still hate it. But if you think beer is just like okay, there's probably a type of beer you would like.
Yes. There is something out there for everybody. Yeah.
Hold on. I feel legally obligated as someone on Red Coat staff to say, don't drink until you're of age. But hypothetically, if you were 21, because I know that's what this question is about, I would say if you just think it's okay, we could probably find you one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's something I think about. It's something I was told once by a used car salesman when I was trying to buy a car, and he said, there's an ass for every seat, and there's a seat for every ass. And so that's like his life philosophy, which I really love. That's powerful energy. But you can relate that to things like this. It's like saying I don't like X is a big statement. It's a powerful energy, but there's a lot of X out there, and it's just a matter of trying something new every day. Get a little lost, do something that scares you. Taste some beer. And finally, the last question. I don't understand this one because it looks like it's either missing it or I don't understand this interpretation of this symbol.
It says, "Are you today's date?" Because you're an 11, I believe.
It's the 10th.
Well, maybe she thought it was going to get recorded. They thought it was going to get recorded tomorrow.
Who can say? That's our show. Do you want to see us out?
Today is 11/10/21.
This is a show about football. We talk about football about as much as football is on the TV.
Hey, we're idiots. He's saying, or they're saying, because you're an 11 out of 10. Like 11/10. We're stupid. We're stupid.
Tomorrow,
Yara, this is why we can't date someone as smart as Yara.
That's correct.
I don't know. Our wives are smarter than us. Man, it must have been hard to get through us. We're stupid. All right. See us out, Justin.
Oh, okay. I'll see us out. I'll do that thing. This has been, obviously, Chapel Bell Curve. You know the one. You know the show. The one that we do twice a week. If you want to... What? Hello? What's happening?
Well, I said hello at the beginning. And
you did. Hello. This has been Chapel Bell Curve.
Hello.
You know where you can find us. Wherever you found us today, on iTunes, Google Play, pretty much anywhere else podcasts are found. You can get in touch with us on Facebook, social media, email, all those different things at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com, or just by searching Chapel Bell Curve, because we got there first. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead. Leave us a rating and a review. It could be good. It could be bad. If it's bad, we'll probably read it and check it for spelling or grammatical errors, because that is who we are, and we are unashamed of that. If you loved today's episode, though, feel free to join us on Patreon. It's just $1 a month, and you can join a burgeoning group of, I think I said chucklefucks last week. For just $1 a month, you can join us. It's a great conversation. Lots of weird things going on, enthusiasm all around. You can support the podcast and join the growing community. We'll catch you in... This is actually a holdover from a couple weeks ago, and I don't think I read it, so I'm just going to say it again because it makes me laugh. We'll catch you in Jason Mendoza's hometown next week, which is no longer true because we copy and paste these notes. But until then, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Nathan's just confused by the Jason Mendoza quote. That's why he's a little late to the party there.
No, it's Jacksonville.